Hi, welcome back to the Fantasy Football Clown Show. I'm your host, Ed Smith, and so today we're going to take a look at a 16-team Family Business IDP League, and this started the summer of 2020, and just a piece that I guess I put out there, maybe a disclaimer if you will. This was my first crack at running an IDP league, and so had no idea what I was doing, and had no idea what 16 teams with 57 roster spots really meant. Like that, as we're talking about it now, that just seems like way too deep. But it's what we have, and I've actually since taken, not given way in this league to another commissioner. So it's the only family business league that I'm aware of that's out there on the Sleeper platform that is not run by me, but it's definitely the only one I've ever started. And actually, I guess it's the only league I've ever started that I've given away the commissioner duties to it, and it's not bad. I really believe strongly that leagues should take on the form of the owners that are in it, and not be commissioner dictatorship. But having said that, there's a couple things that I feel like in all of the leagues that I run need to be the same, just for my abilities to be effective as a leader and as a commissioner. So one of those things was how we prepay for draft picks and draft capital, and this league just didn't want to do that, and I guess I felt like I couldn't fill the open spots when people didn't pay ahead. And so I'm playing in the league because I want to play in the league, but I didn't think that I was kind of voted off the island on that rule, and yet it felt like to me like I was asked to implement a rule that I couldn't manage. And so that was the reason I bailed out as the commissioner, and yet still playing in the league. And it's a little bit smaller of an entry fee than I guess I'd like, and it was more of a test drive the car, so to speak. But as you'll notice with this team, I did kick the can down the road into future draft picks, so I didn't want to pay for 2 years and really pay for the third year already has been paid for, and then not have the fruits of the effort, as I think the team is just coming into its own a little bit. So pretty excited about where it falls, if you will. And so looking at the scoring, it's very standard. PPR scoring, tight end is 1.5 PPR. So it now does reward returners points. So you can get some points out of the return game when you have like those DBs or those running backs on the team that you put in the starting lineup with the deep starters. It has that. And this team does feature 22 starters just like the NFL. So even though it's only 16 teams, not 32, but we do have 22 starters on in this team. So it's one quarterback, one super flex, two running back, three receiver, two tight end, three flex, and then three defensive linemen, three linebackers, three DBs, and one IDP flex for the 22 starters. So we really have 10 on the defensive side and 12 on the offensive side of the ball in this format. And the other leagues that we've outlined in the last couple days all have those same offensive starters. So very, very similar to those other leagues. So I'm pretty familiar with the offensive side. However, on this team, I wasn't very familiar with the defensive side as we started, and I still have the same philosophy defensively, that it's bad teams, weak side starting linebackers are the scorers of the bunch. So I think that changes from year to year. So we're going to outline the players I do have on defense and just kind of go through them really quick, as I think that they're just placeholders, really. I mean, I just try for young guys that can maybe score points, and I actually scour the waiver wire and just try to have a couple options, and I try to pick up guys that just don't hurt me there. And that hasn't been the reason I've ever lost in these leagues. I feel like I've been able to pull out top 5 or top 8 linebackers and defensive linemen and defensive backs pretty well off the waiver wire early in the year, and I just do that every year. I just kind of go with the hot people and go from there. But so right now, sitting with Harris and Van Ginkel and Autry and Lorenzo Carter from the Giants, Ingram, who moved around to 3 teams this year, Cooper, Phillips, and Jenkins are the defensive linemen, and some of them can duel as linebackers as well. Then I have Barnes from the Packers as a linebacker, and then defensive backs Terrell, Whitehead, Ramsey. And Ramsey's not as good in this kind of a game as what his name is, so I probably will move on from Ramsey if I can get some sort of item back. I basically picked him off the waiver wire for name recognition, but the guy doesn't score for whatever reason. he'll have that big game, and I'll try to wheel him and deal him after a pick six or something, and go from there. And then Ward and Gibson from the Bears. That Gibson guy had that huge sack game, and so should have been off of him, but it was after the trade deadline, so wasn't able to move on from him. And Griffin, and then Bradbury, another guy that name recognition, basically. And so I'll be looking to move off of those guys and just acquire more picks and just take the Jordan Whiteheads who score like every week, and I'll try to take those kind of guys. As we look at the offensive side of the ball, and this is where I really try to build the team, I'm feeling a lot less secure with the quarterback position than I did probably as we entered the offseason. Now with the things circling around Carson Wentz maybe getting cut as we go to press on this video right now, we don't know what his future holds and if he's a starter or a backup or what happens with his soon-to-be third team possibly. And so with Wentz and Mac Jones and Mills, I feel like I hope there's two players or two starters there, but I'm using words like hope, and that always scares me when I start using words like hope. I have Ryan Fitzpatrick on this team, but he's probably going to retire. I mean, I really think he's going to retire. I'm just holding him though because there's no reason to cut him at this time of the year until he formally doesn't play football. But that's kind of what I'm anticipating there. And then I have Felipe Franks and Kellen Mond and Ellinger, Rosen, Haskins, Trubisky, Henne, and White, and so all questionable players, and probably be just looking to maneuver around the quarterback room, but realize that none of them are anything that matter in life, and so we'll be looking to try to get another starter or two quarterback here in the upcoming drafts, and really try to take what the draft gives me in a 16-team league, and you really try to capitalize on the quarterback market. The tight end room I'm really happy with, actually, with the two tight end league. I think that this is the strength of the team, and something that even if it doesn't take off this year, this kind of gives me a little bit of pause for hope and will affect the way I draft in this team. Probably very quarterback heavy in the rookie draft, feeling like I don't have to win with this team in year three. Most teams I want to win in year three, but this team I might be a little bit more patient to hold off and try to win year four and go real strong. And so just to pick a couple rookie quarterbacks early in the draft this year might be the play that I make because of the tight end room. And so when I name these, I feel like there's definitely two starters, but probably multiple starters out of this group in a 16-team league. And that's Pitts and Knox. I mean, I feel like that's got the ability of two top 8 tight ends in a 16-team, 2 tight end league. So just kind of think that through. There's very few other teams that are going to be able to compete with that tight end room. But then I have Troutman and Granson and Gray behind that, and there's two future starters, and then Gray, who will be a starter after Kelsey goes away, probably as all starters. And then it does have Gala Johnson, who's behind Troutman. So just in case Troutman isn't what I think, I've got the backup there, and then Asiasi as well. So there's some things behind there in the tight end room with 7 players in it, all young guys, with Knox probably being the oldest of the whole bunch, makes it feel like a really young room and something that can really propel a 16-team league, into the future. So, a couple young quarterbacks added to that room to go along with Mac Jones. It really doesn't matter then what happens to Wentz and Mills and some of those other guys, if we kick the can down the lane till next year a little bit. The running back room is a little bit light, and so this is the reason that I guess I kind of debate on how to go about this next upcoming draft. And we'll have to take what the draft gives me, don't get me wrong, but this running back room feels really light to me with Gainwell as the RB1 right now sitting here, and we don't even know if he has a job really. I mean, he started out the year last year strong, but can't really figure out the Philadelphia running game. When they didn't run, he was a thing. When they did run, he wasn't a thing. And then we move on and have Travis Etienne, and while I like him, I don't know what he is, and I don't know what the new coaching staff for sure thinks of him. And then it's a whole lot of question marks after those two guys, and so there's no way that I think that running back room is good enough to win. Like, it's just not. It's not good enough. But the year that we're trying to win is the year we want to draft the running backs and have the rookies, the top end rookies. So if that's the next year, I'm okay with being patient until next year to draft the let's draft 3 running backs next year in the first round. Well, then all of a sudden that team is pretty good. If we look back and, if 3 years ago would have taken 3 running backs in the first round and it was Dobbins, Akers, and Jonathan Taylor, let's say, or even if it was Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Taylor and Akers, or you just pick 3 of the Swift and those guys there, take any 3, and I think we'd be able to pull out 2, kind of thing, and add him with ETN and Gainwell, and mix and match for 2 spots. I mean, again, if you have enough numbers, it doesn't matter how right you are. And so then this team also has Patterson, the Jared Patterson, and then Khalil Herbert, Ty Johnson, P. Taylor from the Packers, Marlon Mack, Homer, Allison, Mekhi Sargent, and I say Deion Jackson for last because I have a fascination with him because of what happened with Dobbins and Akers. And I'm not saying that this will happen to Jonathan Taylor, but I think it's somewhere that most people are missing. That if anything were to happen to Jonathan Taylor for like a season-ending injury or a half a season-ending injury or something during training camp, which happens, it just happens, and it's fluky, Deion Jackson would be the guy. And why not own him, before anything happens? Because then if it happens, like last year, if you had Josh Reynolds or we thought Gus Edwards, you would have been in a power spot, for a minute until Gus Edwards also got hurt. But think about what you could have willed them out for, and they would have been free. Those are free takes, and so that's what I mean. Like you just take the free guys, when you can do it because they can turn into something. So I'm just kind of stashing them on there. If everything goes well with Taylor like it should, then no big deal. It's good. I don't have nothing into him. And no big deal. I have the handcuff though, so at minimum, the Jonathan Taylor owner at some point will call and ask for a second round pick. So that pick becomes something in this kind of a league. So, that's kind of what I do is I pull those kind of things, just so that I have some future leverage for picks that I'm looking for. When I look at this team in the receiver room, it's got some young guys, but we're still looking to have guys take a step forward, and it's still weak. It got Gabe Davis, and he looks a heck of a lot better today than he did, 2 months ago. But he's the wide receiver 1 here, and then Laquan Treadwell. He's kind of coming out of nowhere, and I always say when guys come out of nowhere, they usually go back to nowhere too. So not really putting a lot of anything into him, but Josh Palmer, I think that he's got a chance. Van Jefferson, is just a guy. Albert Wilson, Noah Brown, KJ Hill, Grayson from Tampa Bay, Mims, Hightower, Colin Johnson. You probably get the theme here. There are a lot of guys. They're probably just guys. Maybe they could be flex starters or injury replacements or trade bait or something. Roster halt fillers can get cut. Bring back 4th round picks. I don't know. They're guys. You got to have them. It's better to have them on your team than have them on somebody else's. But they're not really anything I'm putting anything into. But what I will say is that in this draft with heavy wide receivers, I expect that those will be the guys that I'll cut. And when I start to look at what this draft has in it that is kind of coming up, I'm looking ahead at 2023 and see 3 firsts and 3 seconds and 2 thirds. And then looking at 24 with 3 firsts, 3 seconds, and 2 thirds as well. And I know that there's bright days ahead with the first round picks coming. So that's where a part of me saying, hey, I'm not that worried about winning. I'm going to hit the quarterback room hard early in the draft, and with the 2nd pick overall and the 3rd pick overall, I really feel like those are quarterback spots in a 16-team league, and so I'll probably hit it hard. And might get the best quarterback and the 2nd best quarterback at that spot, because I would imagine somebody with the 101 is going to take, possibly either a receiver or a running back here, and that would be great for building blocks, because the running backs wouldn't help me this year if I can't win anyway. If something happens to Wentz or Mills, and I have no quarterback anyway, so you may as well just go pound quarterbacks early. And then with the 13-16 still in the first round, and then the 18th pick in the 2nd round, so that's 3 in the 10 to 20 range. Those are all wide receiver spots that'll be fairly good receivers that I think could start alongside Gabe Davis. And so let's just say we only get 2 of those 3 that can really be starters. Now we have Gabe Davis and those 2 of those 3 that are starters, and now we're starting to build around. We can throw a tight end or 2 in the flex, and we can pull one of those other receivers into the flex, and we're maybe not winning yet, but we're looking a little bit better. We're getting better. We're improving. We don't know what's going to happen. We still don't have any good running backs, so we're still kind of waiting for next year for running backs, and we're going to probably finish out of the playoffs. But next year, we just know where we have to be. Is we just have to hammer the running backs, and then we start throwing darts. After that point, with the 29, 30, 31, 32, 34, 46, 48, and 50, all those picks are the Khalil Herbert type, the Eli Mitchell type, the James Robinson type. And so let's just think hypothetically, out of all those picks, we pull one running back and one receiver, and all of a sudden this team wins. That's how much it is, and there's darts. Yes, are they darts? And yes, it could be like last year where I had no Eli Mitchell, but what if it's like the year before where I had all kinds of James Robinson? I get a James Robinson and a Gabe Davis out of there, and all of a sudden this team goes to the moon because ETN plays well and Gainwell's a thing. We're off and running. We're off and running, and we control the whole quarterback room, and we control the whole tight end room. So there's 15 other teams that don't have the quarterback room or tight end room that we have. So we don't have to be the best in the wide receiver or the running back room. We just have to be good, and we have to be able to put 10 points on the board each week in those positions. We don't have to put 30 because there's very few teams that are going to be able to put 30 in all the spots. And because we're putting up 30 in both quarterback spots and 20 in both tight end spots. So there's nobody else competing in that game. I think everybody else is putting 8 points in those spots. So, and some of them are putting zeros in the quarterback, so we can eliminate them their way. So that's kind of what we're doing, here. And then there's going to be some teams that are really built around those defensive spots and are guessing right. So, still tweaking through that, but that's kind of how I view this team and where I view it going. And there are some players, and then it actually has the number 80th pick overall in the draft, which is the last pick of the draft. So we have to pick that last Mr. Irrelevant player, and I always like to have that pick because then I can see if it ever becomes anything. It's just kind of fun for me, I guess, if you will. This team, also I guess it's important to remember it was one of those teams where I drafted all kinds of backup quarterbacks. Now I've since moved on from them, and just kind of reviewed the draft and saw where it went, and I did trade some of the players that I did pick in the draft. It looked like we had Judy, and he was the first round pick in that first rookie draft that I had with the 111, and moved on, and that's kind of partly how I got some of the first round picks. But if you get 3 first round picks for Jerry Judy, that's a pretty good deal. It doesn't matter in a league like this. I'll be able to pick another one out of that mess, and he's probably leading me to a quarterback. So then it becomes really good. I did have some misses in this draft, but I just want to highlight with the 5'11", I thought this was a great pick. Got Gabe Davis. So, I had some dumb ones. Raymond Calais with the 8'6", like Cole McDonald with 7'11". This guy didn't even make a team. Devin Asiasi with 3'11" didn't make the team. This team did trade away, or I think I should cut KJ Osborne. I guess I gotta own that one a little bit. I took him with 7'6", and I cut him, before he actually became anything. And so, I have some misses, in this league, and make some mistakes and cut guys I shouldn't, and hang on to the Mimses of the world too long, and that happens probably to everybody, I would guess. But I don't think I've made the fatal flaws here, so that's always a good thing. And excited for where this team goes. And this is one of those teams that I put a high value on Kyle Pitts, and it looks like it's made out well. And as you can see, with the future draft capital coming 3 firsts in the next 2 years after this year, I really think that if we get a couple more quarterbacks and a couple more running backs, this team will be tough to beat. And late in those drafts, I'll probably take linebackers. If I've learned anything, it's from the Dallas Cowboy linebacker. I'll just take guys like that, with those late round rookie picks, and stash them and see what they become something at 22 years old. And maybe they will be target, they will be point scorers, and they'll be good, and we'll pound them, because it doesn't seem like the late round stuff is really good outside of Gabe Davis types. And and so we'll keep taking that. But we'll also take the. Last year I hit the tight end room hard. I got Noah Gray and those kind of guys, and they really turned into something. And this league, just an important distinction, I traded Khalil Herbert for a first round pick. So I picked him with the 608 pick in this in the rookie draft last year. I traded him for a first round pick in 2024. So that's kicking the can down naturally, and that's kind of some. And then I get him back and I buy him back for cheap. I do stuff like that. So if I can trade him for a first and bring him back for a third, that's a pretty good move, right? So I do those kind of things that I see here, and I try to buy low, sell high, right? I mean, that's what we do. We try to sell the hype and buy the news, and so we keep consistent with that approach. And looking over some of the drafts though, just to kind of see, I see Michael Parsons did go with the 14th pick overall in this league, and then in the second round there's actually 3 linebackers taken. So there are defensive players going, but you do have to, and then some defensive backs were going in the third round. So it is something that you can key in on. But when guys were taking those, I was taking just some dart throw running backs and receivers and quarterbacks, and let's see if they become anything. I mean, Newman was one of my bad quarterbacks I took last year, but taking Trask and Mond and Mills especially turned into something. I mean, he became some value. So taking him in the second and third round places that could get him seemed to make a lot of sense. So those were the good picks, and I got him with 301 here in this league. So that was a good pick. So let me know what you think. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, and then also get that notification bell ringing, and ask you to put your notes in the comments. Let me know if this team is never going to win, because this board told me that this team will never win. They really believe that I can never win with this approach, and with the 8,000 quarterback draft approach, and yet I feel like it's coming around, and I do think it might be a year away. It might be 2023 until this thing lands, but patience is a virtue, and really being patient through this process and building something that I think will be pretty sustainable. I think once it gets to the win, it'll get into the top 3 money spots pretty consistently, and it'll be tough to beat, especially with the additional draft capital each year. It still gets early picks even when it finishes well. So that's always the key, to keep replenishing with early picks even when the team is doing well. So that's all for now. We'll come back with another team tomorrow. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow.